Hi guys, welcome to the 6.3 Try Then Check Answers video. We're going to go through answers for the try then check problems. Alright, so for these problems we're completing our table, so each row has a sequence, a formula, and a sequence type. And we're going to use formal notation for our formulas. The first two are sequences, and then the last three give us the formulas. Okay, so let's start looking at our first sequence. We know that our recursive formula has two parts, right? It has the starting term, or u sub 1, and then it has a rule for the next term, and our symbol for the next term was u sub n plus 1. You don't need to use different colors. Okay. So u sub 1, that's the first term in our sequence. That's what the sub 1 means. So there's u sub 1, so we know u sub 1 is 768. To figure out what our rule is, we need to know how are we getting the next term from the current term. So what do I do to go from 768 to 192 to 48 to 12 to 3? So we might see it more easily down here, that 48 divided by 4 is 12, 12 divided by 4 is 3. So that might be a guess, and then we could check it and say, okay, 768 divided by 4, that's 192. So it's probably divided by 4. There's two ways we could represent that. We could do it as dividing by 4, or we could do it as times 1/4. I've typically been doing this as times 1/4. I'll show you both ways to write it. So if you want to do it as divide by 4, you could say that the next is the current over 4. If you're thinking times 1/4, then you could say the next is 1/4 times the current, u sub n. Both of those are the same. Either answer is fine. Okay, this sequence is geometric because we're multiplying, dividing. Okay, that's it for the first one. Next one, again, we need our start value. So we just look at what is the first term in the sequence, and that's our u sub 1. So u sub 1 is negative 32. Now we want to know how do we get the next. So how do we go from negative 32 to negative 26 to negative 20 to negative 14? You might see pretty quickly that we are adding 6 each time. So to get our next, u sub n plus 1, we take our current, u sub n, and we add 6 to it. So that's how we write next equals now plus 6 in symbols. This is an adding sequence. We're only adding the same number every time, so that means it is arithmetic. Okay, now we're going to do some where we go from the formula to the sequence. So we can always get our first term for free. We know that's our first term. So our sequence starts at negative 1, and then we want to be able to fill in some other terms in the sequence. So that's where we're going to look at our rule. Our rule says the next is negative 7 times the now. So multiply by negative 7. So to go from negative 1 to the next term, I'm going to do negative 7 times negative 1. That gives me positive 7. A negative times a negative is a positive. Then to go from 7 to the next term, I'm going to do negative 7 times 7 this time. Negative 7 times 7 is negative 49. Okay, then we're going to do it one more time. Little crunch for space. So now we're doing negative 7 times negative 49, that gives us a positive 343. Okay, so we found our first term, and then we use this as the recipe for generating the next terms. Okay, next question. Again, let's start with our starting term. So we know the sequence starts at negative, oh, sorry, whoops. We forgot to say what type of sequence this was. So we're only multiplying by -7. We're always multiplying by the same number. So this is a geometric. Okay, back down to this one now. -2 is our first term. So I know my sequence starts at -2. And then I want to fill in some other terms. So now we're going to look at our rule. And our rule is going to tell us how to do that. So the rule is saying that the next is the now times 5, then -3. So we're going to multiply by 5, then subtract 3. Okay, so to get from -2 to the next term, I multiply -2 by 5, and then I subtract 3. So 5 times -2 is -10, subtract 3 is -13. Okay, now to get the next term, we're going to do that again, except with -13. So again, we're going to multiply by 5, and then subtract 3. So what is -13 times 5? -65. Then subtract 3, we get -68. Okay, and you could keep going. So sequence type, we did two things this time. We multiplied and we subtracted. So that means this is not arithmetic and it's not geometric. So this is a neither. Okay, last one. As always, we start with our first term. So sequence starts at 0. And then we want to know, how do we fill in some other terms? So we'll look at our rule. The rule says that the next is equal to the now cubed plus 2. So we're going to raise to the third power, then add 2. That's what this rule is saying. Okay, so let's do that. From 0 to the next term, I need to raise 0 to the third power and then add 2. So 0 to the third is 0, plus 2 is 2. Now I'm going to do that again, but my current term is 2. So to get the next term, I'm going to do 2 to the third power, then plus 2. So 2 to the third is 8, plus 2 is 10. Okay, last one. To get from 10 to the next term, we're going to do 10 to the third power, and then add 2. 10 to the third is 1,000, plus 2 is 1,002. And so on. You could keep going. Okay, so this sequence had exponents involved. We weren't always multiplying by the same number. We weren't always only adding the same number. So this is going to be a neither. Okay, those are the answers to the try then check problems. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day.